Hi, fifth graders. Today we are going to be starting Chapter 10. We are working with Lesson 10.1, Customary Length, on 585 in our textbooks. The standard that we are going to be covering today is under Measurement and Data 5.1. The standard states that I can convert among different size standard measurement units within a given measurement system and use these conversions in solving multi-step real-world problems. So with this standard, we are going to be doing some converting and comparing with our customary length for today. Now, when we are doing our conversions, we do have a couple of different sayings to help us remember whether we have to multiply or divide to do our conversions. So the first saying to help us remember that when we have to multiply is when we are going from a larger unit of measure to a smaller unit of measure, we know that we have to multiply. So for example, if I want to go from yards to feet, I know that 1 yard is bigger than 1 foot. So therefore, to go from a yard to a foot, I need to multiply. So I need to remember horse to fly, multiply. Again, because I'm going from a large unit, which would be yards, to a smaller unit, which would be feet, I would have to multiply to find that answer. Then, in reverse, to go from a smaller unit of measure to a larger unit of measure, I have to divide. So I have to remember fly to horse, divide of course. So if I would go in reverse and want to change my feet into yards, I would know that a foot is smaller than a yard, so I have to do fly to horse and then divide of course to find my answer. So within this chapter, we are going to be doing a small quiz to help us memorize our conversions. So if in Schoology you want to print out these flashcards to help you be able to study for this quiz, you might want to. Once you have the flashcards printed out, cut them apart, and then on the back of the flashcard, write the answer for each conversion. So I'll go ahead and write the answers in for you so that way you can fill these in with me. So you may want to pause it, print these out, and then start the video back up in order to get these answers. These answers are also found on lessons 10.1, 10.2, and 10.3. So the first 4 flashcards are from lesson 10.1 with our customary length. So to fill these in, 1 foot does equal 12 inches, 1 yard equals 3 feet, 1 mile equals 5,280 feet, or remember 5280, and then 1 mile equals 1,760 yards, or again, just think of it as 1760. Now the next 4 cards are from lesson 10.2 with our capacity. And to fill these in, 1 cup equals 8 fluid ounces, 1 pint equals 2 cups, 1 quart equals 2 pints, and 1 gallon equals 4 quarts. And finally, the last 2 cards for lesson 10.3 are customary weight. 1 pound equals 16 ounces, 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds. Remember, you're not writing the answers on the lines like I did. You are going to want to write your answers on the back of the card to help you study for this quiz. So now moving on to the textbook on page 585, our essential question is asking, how can you compare and convert customary units of length? So under Unlock the Problem, it says to build a new swing, Mr. Matson needs 9 feet of rope for each side of the swing and 6 more feet for the monkey bar. The hardware store sells rope by the yard. How many feet of rope does Mr. Matson need for the swing? So ladies and gentlemen, we know from the story problem, it says 9 feet of rope for each side of the swing. And if you recall, there are 2 sides. If you look at the picture to the right with a girl swinging, you notice that there are 2 sides of rope for the swing. So if you have 9 feet on one side plus another 9 feet on the second side, that will give you a total of 18 feet of rope that you need for the swing. Now, it says how many feet does Mr. Metzen need for the swing and the monkey bar combined. Well, we just found that we needed 18 feet of rope for the swing, plus, up in the story problem, it says 6 more feet for the monkey bars. So when we take 18 feet plus 6 feet, we get a total of 24 feet of rope that is needed total. Now, remember, Mr. Metzen needs to find out how many yards of rope he needs to buy because it is sold in yards. So he will have to convert 24 feet to yards. So we need to figure out how many groups of 3 feet are in 24 feet. So if you would look at a yardstick, you would see, or if you would take a ruler, you would see that there are 12 inches per foot. So that gives me 3 sections. So that would be 3 feet per yard. And you can use a bar model to write an equation, or you can use the saying that I just taught you a little bit ago. Because we are going from feet to yards, and I know that there are 3 feet in 1 yard, that means a foot is smaller than a yard, I would have to make sure I use division. So this is fly to horse, so I have to divide, of course. And when I do my division, I need to make sure that I'm taking the 24 feet divided by the number of feet in 1 yard, which is 3. This is a basic math fact. I know that 24 divided by 3 is 8. So therefore, I know Mr. Metzen will need to buy 8 yards of rope. Now, if you use your model, you would be able to figure out that if you have 24 feet, and you would break it apart into 3 feet sections, that would give you 8 total sections. So moving on to the next page. For the next example, we are going to be using the table to find the relationship between miles and feet. Notice this table to the right with this customary units of length does give you the conversions and the abbreviations for each conversion. So the distance between the new high school and the football field is 2 miles. How does this distance compare to 10,000 feet? So in order to do the comparison, we are going to have to make sure we convert those miles into feet, so that way we can compare that to the 10,000 feet that they want us to compare it to. So again, thinking of our saying, I know that I am going to compare, want to change the 2 miles into feet. So a mile is much longer than a foot. So for here I have horse to fly. So I'm going to need to multiply. So that's why they have that multiplication symbol. And when I need to convert the 2 miles into feet, I know that I will now need to multiply the total number of miles by, and then if you look at the table off to the right, 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. So filling in my work over here, I'm going to have to take 2 times 5,280. Again, I'm multiplying that 5,280 by 2 because we're converting 2 miles. So off to the side, I'm going to stack my problem and multiply the 2 out. So 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 8 is 16. Carry my 1. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. And 2 times 5 is 10. So I now found that there are 10,560 feet in 2 miles. I'm just rewriting the answer again on this line. And remember, they want us to now compare how this distance would relate to 10,000 feet. So I just found that 2 miles is 10,560 feet. And if I put this in for the comparison, remember we start with the largest place value and then work our way to the smaller place values. Well, I see they're both 10,000, but the 2 miles is 560 feet, where the rest of it on the other side is only zeros. So I know that 10,560 is greater than 10,000, and I can say since 10,560 feet is greater than 10,000, the distance between the new high school and the football field is longer than 10,000 feet. Now, another thing we will have to make sure we know how to do on this lesson is to convert mixed measures. So mixed measures use more than one unit of measurement, and you can convert a single unit of measurement to mixed measures. So they want us to convert 62 inches into feet and inches. So I know if I'm converting inches to feet and inches, I'm going from small to big and whatever is then left over. So if I'm going from small to big, I'm using fly to horse, divide of course. So again, I'm changing from a smaller unit of measure to a larger unit of measure, so I divide. And another easy way to determine whether you have to multiply or divide is if they are asking you to convert it into two measurements. And one of those measurements is what the original unit is. That does automatically tell you that you're going to divide. So for this one, I know that I'm taking my total number of inches, which is 62, divided by the number of inches, which is in 1 foot, and we know that is 12. So if I set up my long division problem, 62 divided by 12, 12 does not go into 6, but it does go into 62 5 times. 12 times 5 is 60. Subtract, that leaves me with 2. So I have 5 remainder 2. Notice my quotient, so the answer to my division problem is the number of feet. The remainder, that is what is left over, that is still in inches. So that means 62 inches is equal to 5 feet 2 inches. So the bullet point down below, explain how to convert mixed measures, 12 yards 2 feet, to a single unit of measurement in feet. How many feet is it? So for this one, because I want to go from yards to feet, I know that that is horse to fly, multiply. So therefore, I'm going to have to multiply the number of yards, which is 12, by the number of feet in 1 yard, which is 3. And that will give me 12 times 3 is 36 feet. I'm not done yet, however. Next, I need to add the additional number of feet. So add 2 feet and that will give you, to get a total of 38 feet, because again 36 plus 2 is 38. So if you were converting the mixed measures, going from a large unit of measure to a smaller unit of measure, you'll multiply and then add the additional amount on. Moving on to the next page. We are in school going to be working on just doing some conversions. This will be placed into Schoology if you need to continue to practice more, I highly encourage you to practice. So for 1A and B, you have 144 inches going to feet, and then 5 feet into inches. 2A and B, you're converting yards and miles. 3A and B, for 3A, 8 yards into feet, and B is 7,040 yards into miles. 4A is 3 feet into inches. 4B is 5,280 feet into miles. 5A would be 10 yards going into feet. 5B, 5 miles moving into feet, and so forth. So those are some easy conversions that you can work on for your own practice. So now moving on to the share and show. So the first 3, notice that we are doing just some regular conversions. For the first one, I have 2 miles converting into yards. Well, I know a mile is bigger than a yard, so I'm going to be working with horse to fly. So therefore, I know I need to multiply. And I'm going to be multiplying by the number of yards in 1 mile. So if you need to refer back to page 586 to the table up at the top, you would notice that there are 1,760 yards in 1 mile. And remember, we had 2 miles, so we're taking 1,760 times 2. 0 times 2 is 0. 6 times 2 is 12. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 1 is 15. And then 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So therefore, I have 3,520 yards in 2 miles. Moving on to question number 2. I had 6 yards being converted into feet. Well, a yard is bigger than a foot, so I have horse to fly, so I need to multiply. And I know that there are 3 feet in 1 yard, so 6 times 3 would give me a total of 18 feet. Number 3, notice we are converting 90 inches into feet and inches. Remember when I told you that there are 2 blanks and one of those blanks is still in the same unit of measure? That automatically tells us that we need to divide, or you can just know that an inch is smaller than a foot, so fly to horse, divide of course. So setting up my long division, 90 inches divided by the number of inches in 1 foot, which is 12. Well, when I work with this, I know that the closest I can get to 90 is 7 times, which is 84. 90 minus 84 is 6. So I have 7 feet, 6 inches for that conversion. Now, if you continue on your own with the practice, just going over these, I would pause them, solve them, and then you can look at the answers after you resume your video. So for number 4, I'm moving from inches to feet and inches. So the 2 missing blanks does tell me that I will have to divide, or knowing inches to feet would be fly to horse, divide of course. So when you take 125 divided by 12, you would be left with 10 feet 5 inches. Again, that was taking 125 divided by 12. Number 5, feet to yards and feet. Again, 2 blanks tells us that it automatically to divide, but for this one, I do also know that a foot is smaller than a yard, so again, fly to horse, divide of course. So take my number of feet that I have, divided by the number of feet in 1 yard, which is 3. If I take 46 divided by 3, that is 15 yards, 1 foot. And finally, for number 6, notice you're taking yards, 42 yards and 2 feet, and you want it converted all into feet. So your first step is to take 42 times 3, because again, there's 3 feet in 1 yard. So if you take 42 times 3, that does give you a total of 126, plus the 2 additional feet that are within this problem to give me a total of 128 feet. Now there are some questions on your homework where you will have to compare some measurements. In order to compare measurements, you do have to have them both within the same unit of measure. I prefer to multiply over dividing, so I will change the larger units of measure that are listed into the smaller units of measure. So for number 7, I know a yard is bigger than a foot, so I'm going to change the 3 yards into feet. And I know that there are 3 feet in 1 yard, so horse to fly, I have 3 yards times 3 feet in 1 yard. Does give me a total of 9 feet. So now I can compare 8 feet and 9 feet. Well, I know 8 feet is smaller than 9 feet, so the less than symbol. For number 8, 2 miles compared to 10,500 feet. Well, from the question that we completed on the example 1 on page 586, we already converted 2 miles into feet. And if you recall, we had 10,560 feet. Again, you find that by taking your 5,280 feet times 2 miles. So now I can compare. I do know that 10,560 is a little bit larger than 10,500, so I need the greater than symbol. Now for number 9, this one, notice that the left side of the circle is 3 yards, 2 feet, and the right side of the circle is 132 inches. So for both of these, you have to make sure you are doing some conversions. I would go ahead and just change the 3 yards, 2 feet into all feet, and then change that into inches. However, you can go directly from 132 inches into yards if you choose to. You do know that there are 3 feet in 1 yard, and if there are 12 inches in 1 foot, that would be 12 times 3, which would give me a total of 36 inches in 1 yard. So I am going to change the 3 yards and 2 feet, all into feet first. So 3 times 3, jumping ahead of myself. 3 times 3, because there are 3 feet in 1 yard, gives me 9 feet plus, so I have my 9 feet plus the 2 additional feet would give me a total of 11 feet. Now I need to change that 11 feet into inches. So there are 11 feet times 12 inches and 1 foot. And basic math fact, 11 times 12, I know, is 132 inches. So therefore, I'm comparing 132 inches to 132 inches, which are equal to each other. Moving on, I'm just going to go down to question number 11 because this is similar to a test question that you will have when we do take the Chapter 10 tests. It says, choose the correct word and number to complete the sentence. Katie's driveway is 120 feet long. To convert feet to yards, so again, we're going from feet to yards, so I have fly to horse. I need to divide, of course. So I will be taking 120 divided by, and then I have to remember how many feet are in a yard, which that would be 3. So like I said, that is similar to a question that you will have on your test when we take the Chapter 10 test. So now, going on to the homework, I am now on page 589. On the front, it will be evens only, except for number 18. Don't worry about doing number 18. So when I look at the evens only, the top section, 2, 4, 6, and 8, you are going to be doing those conversions. Don't forget either fly to horse or horse to fly for those 4 questions. Then there are questions that you will have to do some comparisons. So 10, 12, and 14. Remember, the easiest way to compare is to change the larger unit into the smaller unit, so that way you're multiplying. And then also you are completing number 16. So number 16 says Marita orders 12 yards of material to make banners. If she needs 1 foot of fabric for each banner, how many banners can she make? So if we have 12 yards of material, and I need that in feet, I'm going to be converting 12 yards into feet. And however many feet that is, that would give you the total number of banners, because if you recall, 1 foot per banner. On the back, we are not going to be doing all of them. So for the first lesson check 1 and 2, you will be completing both of these. It says Jenna's garden is 5 yards long. How long is her garden in feet? So for question number 1, you need to convert 5 yards into feet. Question number 2, Ellen needs to buy 180 inches of ribbon to wrap a large present. The store sells ribbon only in whole yards. How many yards does Ellen need to buy to have enough ribbon? So ladies and gentlemen, notice we are going from inches to yards. So what I would do to make this problem easier on yourself is I would first convert 180 inches into feet. And then once you have that number of feet, you are going to want to then convert that into yards. So you'll have 2 different conversions that you will want to use when you are finding this answer, just to make it easier on yourself. So again, 180 inches converted into feet, and then that number of feet converted into yards. Moving down to the spiral review. Number 3, Mackenzie works for a catering company. She is making iced tea for an upcoming event. For each container of tea, she uses 16 tea bags and 3 cups of sugar. If Mackenzie uses 64 tea bags, how many cups of sugar will she use? So this was back from chapter 9, where we were working with our different sequences and kind of comparing them to each other. So if I know that she's going to use 16 tea bags and 3 cups of sugar per container, and she's going to continue to do this until she's used 64 tea bags, I would need to make sure I extend my pattern until I get to the correct number. So for the tea bags, I am going to count by 16s to help me figure this out. So I have 16, then I have 32, and then add another 16 on would give me 48, and add another 16 on, and that would give me my 64. If you recall, she is going to use 64 tea bags, so I can stop right there. And then for the sugar, remember, for 1 container it's 3 cups. So you're just going to continue counting by 3s until you get to this final one. So obviously 3 plus 3 is 6, and then fill in the next, and then this last one is the final answer that you would have to place into Schoology. Now notice number 4 does have a fraction in it, so we are going to cross that out since we did not work with our fraction units yet. And moving on to number 5, what is the quotient of 396 divided by 12? So you are taking 396 and dividing it by 12, typing in the final answer into Schoology. There will not be a remainder for this answer. Finally, for question number 6, this does have 2 different things that you will have to do in order to get this answer correct. For this, the first part, it says, what is the unknown number in sequence 2 in the chart? So you will be filling in this number for the table. Then they want to know, what rule can you write that relates sequence 2 to sequence 1? So you will have to tell me the rule, and part of this was written in Schoology for you. So they have multiply by, and then you will have to fill in the missing number that you would have to multiply. So what are you going to have to multiply sequence 1 by to get to sequence 2? Please let us know if you have any questions. Hopefully this came easy to you. Don't forget, fly to horse, divide of course, and horse to fly, multiply.